If you're in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s, and intimacy has quietly faded from your life, what if I told you that something far more important than pleasure is being lost? I know it's not a conversation people like to have. In fact, most avoid it altogether. But here's the surprising truth. This isn't just about sex. It's about your heart, your brain, your hormonal balance, and ultimately your connection to life itself. And if no one else has said this to you, let me be the first. Giving up on intimacy might be silently stealing your health, your vitality, and even your sense of purpose. I'm Dr. James. For more than 30 years, I've worked closely with older adults, men and women, navigating life after 60, and I've seen firsthand the shift that happens when we stop treating sex as a luxury and start recognizing it as a vital pillar of aging well. You might be thinking, it's too late for me, or that part of life is behind me. But I want you to hear this, it's never too late. Your body, your brain, and your spirit are more capable of renewal than you might believe. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the 4 most overlooked consequences of losing intimacy after 60, real physical and emotional consequences that can start silently and grow stronger over time if we don't address them. But here's the good news: with the right awareness and action, you can reignite this part of yourself not just for pleasure, but for your well-being, your confidence, and your sense of connection. So if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe and tap the bell icon. These videos are here to support you, to help you live longer, stronger, and more connected. And if this message already resonates with you, drop a 1 in the comments below. If it doesn't, drop a 0. Either way, your voice helps guide this conversation. Now, let's begin. We'll start with something most people never expect: the surprising way intimacy affects your brain. 1. Your brain begins to age faster than it should. I'll never forget George, a 72-year-old retired math teacher who came into my office years ago. "Doc," he said, "I just don't feel sharp anymore. I forget names. I lose track of what I'm saying mid-sentence. I used to feel clear, focused. Now it's like I'm underwater." At first glance, George seemed fine. No signs of dementia, no major medical red flags. But during our 3rd visit, in a quiet moment, he told me something deeply personal. Since his wife passed away, he hadn't been sexually active in nearly 5 years. Now that detail might seem irrelevant to some, but not to me, because science and my years of experience tell a different story. When sexual intimacy disappears, the brain loses one of its most powerful forms of natural stimulation. You see, sexual activity isn't just physical, it triggers a biochemical symphony. It increases blood flow to critical areas of the brain, those tied to memory, emotion, and learning. It releases dopamine, which fuels motivation and joy. It boosts oxytocin, the bonding hormone that fosters connection and calm. And it floods the body with endorphins, those natural mood-lifting chemicals that help us feel alive. Without these chemical boosts, something subtle but serious starts to happen. Focus drifts, mood declines, motivation fades, and over time the risk of cognitive decline and even early-stage dementia rises. No, intimacy isn't a cure-all. But when it disappears from our lives, so does a vital part of what keeps our brain engaged, responsive, and young. It's not about chasing youth. It's not about performance. It's about connection, physical, emotional, sensual. Even gentle touch, prolonged eye contact, or moments of shared closeness can keep the brain's emotional circuits lit up and firing. When that disappears, people tend to withdraw. They stop seeking interaction. They become less curious, less involved in their lives. They even stop taking care of themselves the way they used to. And here's the critical piece: that fading isn't just emotional, it's neurological. But here's the truth I want you to carry with you today: that decline is not inevitable. With the right steps, ones we'll discuss in this series, you can keep your mind sharp, your spirit engaged, and your brain functioning well into your 80s and beyond. But while the brain might be the first to register intimacy loss, the body isn't far behind. Because next, we need to talk about something more visible and far more dangerous. 2. Your body begins to lose vital circulation and hormonal balance. Let me tell you about Linda and Carl. both in their late 60s, married for nearly 40 years. They came into my office one afternoon and admitted something many couples feel, but rarely say out loud. "We just assumed that part of our life was over," Linda said quietly. Carl nodded. "I don't feel like myself anymore," he added. "I've lost energy. I've gained weight. I feel older." So we looked deeper, and one clear thing stood out: intimacy had disappeared from their marriage. And here's what most people don't realize: when sexual activity fades away, your body notices in major ways. Without arousal and physical touch, your body begins to lose its natural rhythm. That cardiovascular boost that comes with touch and pleasure, it vanishes. Blood circulation slows. Vessels stiffen. Oxygen flow to vital organs like the heart and brain diminishes. It's easy to forget that sexual intimacy is in fact a form of light aerobic exercise. It increases heart rate, improves lung function, supports better sleep, enhances immunity, and when it disappears, your physical health begins to reflect that absence. But the more alarming shift happens hormonally. In men, the absence of sexual activity often leads to a sharp decline in testosterone levels. That can result in fatigue, loss of muscle mass, weight gain, mood swings, decreased motivation, and even mild depression. For women, estrogen and oxytocin production drop. That can contribute to increased joint pain, vaginal dryness, thinner bones, greater risk of osteoporosis, and emotional sensitivity. These changes aren't just part of getting older, they are biological responses to disconnection. And they can affect everything from your mobility, to your balance, to your emotional health. And the most dangerous part: how quietly it happens. You don't wake up one day with brittle bones or low testosterone. These changes creep in month by month, year by year, until you look in the mirror and wonder, where did that strong, vibrant version of me go? But here's the hopeful truth. The moment you reignite this part of your life, the body starts responding. Hormones begin to rebalance, circulation improves, energy rises. You don't need to perform like you did at 25. You don't even need a partner. Touch, closeness, self-pleasure, these all activate the same biological pathways. What matters is connection to your own body, to your desires, to your sense of vitality. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly feel drastically different. Aging, especially the kind that comes from disconnection, happens slowly. It's subtle. Maybe you walk a little slower, you stop going to the gym, sleep becomes fragmented. The scale nudges up your energy dips and you tell yourself, this must just be part of getting older. But here's a powerful truth: a lot of those changes aren't just aging. They're the result of physical disconnection from your body, from your partner, and from the rhythms of intimacy that once nourished your spirit. And here's something else most people don't realize. You don't need intercourse to feel the benefits. Gentle touch, shared affection, emotional vulnerability, lying in someone's arms. These forms of closeness can reactivate your hormonal pathways, stimulate your nervous system, and help restore your body's natural rhythm. This isn't about performance, it's about presence. But the longer that presence is absent, the harder it becomes for the body and the mind to find balance again. And as dangerous as the physical changes are, they pale in comparison to what gets lost at a deeper level: your sense of connection, your identity, and perhaps most heartbreaking of all, your sense of worth. 3. Your relationship and self-worth may quietly suffer. There's a kind of silence I see too often in older couples, not the shouting kind, not filled with tension, but a heavy, slow-growing silence that settles like dust between two people who once knew every corner of each other's hearts. I once sat with a woman named Margaret, 74, dignified, loving. Her husband had survived a brutal battle with cancer, and in the aftermath, their intimacy had quietly disappeared. With tears brimming in her eyes, she said something I'll never forget: "I don't want him to feel pressured. But I miss being touched. I miss feeling like someone's partner, not just their caregiver." Her pain wasn't about sex, it was about the slow unraveling of connection. The way physical distance, when unspoken and unresolved, can widen emotional distance. What begins as understanding becomes withdrawal. What was once affection becomes routine. And even in loving relationships, that distance can turn into shame, loneliness, resentment, insecurity. Over time, you stop reaching out. You stop initiating. You start to believe you're no longer desirable. It's not just about being alone, it's about feeling unseen, even in the arms of the person who once made your heart race. And this doesn't only happen in relationships. For single adults, this disconnection can run just as deep. When we stop believing we're worthy of touch, worthy of attraction, worthy of love, we begin to shrink not just in body, but in identity. We lose a piece of ourselves that longs to be wanted. And when we lose that, even subconsciously, we lose part of what makes life feel meaningful. That kind of erosion of self-worth doesn't show up on a lab report, but it can take years off your life and joy out of your days. What concerns me most is how invisible this damage can be. You can be surrounded by children and grandchildren, you can have a house full of laughter, and still feel emotionally starved inside. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to stay that way. I've seen couples in their 70s laugh together again. I've seen 80-year-olds rediscover flirting. I've seen widows and widowers fall in love again with someone new or with themselves. It doesn't take a miracle. It takes one small act of courage to reach to touch, to say, I still want to connect. Still, for all the emotional weight we carry around intimacy, there's one final consequence of disconnection that may be the most serious of all. It's not just your brain, not just your hormones, not just your heart, it's your life expectancy. Let's talk about what the science says. 4. You may be shortening your life without knowing it. I once had the honor of caring for a man named Robert, 81 years old, proud, strong, sharp-witted. He'd been through his share of challenges, 2 surgeries, 1 heart scare, but still he had this glow, an energy, a spark. When I asked him one day what kept him going, he smiled and said, I flirt with my wife every morning. We hold each other every night. And sometimes, well, we still make love. It wasn't a boast, it was a celebration of something he intuitively knew, even if he couldn't explain it. What Robert may not have realized is that science backs him up. Decades of research show that regular sexual intimacy in any form is associated with longer life. I'm not talking about marathon sessions or youthful romance. I'm talking about real consistent human connection. Some holding hands, sharing a kiss, lying skin to skin, laughing in bed, feeling wanted. These moments release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, endorphins, the body's natural pain relievers, and they reduce cortisol, the damaging stress hormone. These chemical reactions are not minor. They help lower blood pressure, decrease inflammation, strengthen the heart, enhance sleep, sharpen immunity. One landmark study from the British Medical Journal found that older adults who maintained a regular sex life had significantly lower mortality rates over time. That's not opinion. That's data. When intimacy disappears, stress lingers, sleep gets shallow. The nervous system stays in a low-grade fight-or-flight mode. The immune system weakens. Motivation to move, connect, or explore wanes. These aren't vague symptoms. They're early signs of faster aging and, in many cases, premature death. Too many people mistake this as the natural course of aging. But in truth, much of this decline begins with one quiet moment of giving up on closeness. And when that happens day after day, month after month, it adds up. Your body was built for connection. It thrives on intimacy. It breaks down without it. But I want you to hear me clearly. You are not too old. It is not too late. And that spark inside you, it's still there. I've seen people in their 70s and 80s come back to life, not just emotionally, but physically. Their color improves. Their energy returns. They smile more. They laugh more. They live more. Not because they found a miracle pill, but because they found their way back to connection. 5. It's never too late to start again. Here's the truth. I wish more people heard the truth too often buried beneath years of silence, shame, or self-doubt. No matter how long it's been, no matter how distant intimacy may feel right now, you can bring it back. Let me show you how. I once met a woman named Eleanor. She was 78, intelligent, elegant. Her posture told the world she was composed, but her voice... It cracked when she said, "I miss feeling like a woman, not just someone's grandmother, not just someone's patient, just a woman." It had been nearly 10 years since she'd experienced any kind of physical affection. She had started to believe that part of her life was simply over, that maybe she should just accept it, push it away, forget about it. But what she didn't know, and what I've seen again and again, is that the human spirit has a remarkable capacity to reawaken. Whether you're 60 or 90, whether it's been months or decades, intimacy is still possible. Desire may change. Your body may respond differently, but the longing for closeness, the capacity to give and receive tenderness, that doesn't disappear, it doesn't expire. It waits. Sometimes it waits quietly, sometimes it waits with sadness. But it's there. And it doesn't require grand gestures to return. Rebuilding intimacy can begin with a meaningful conversation, a moment of vulnerability, a hand held across the dinner table, a shared memory that brings laughter. Even a whisper, "I miss you." I've seen couples who had drifted apart for years take that first small step, and suddenly it was like the air between them became electric again. Yes, it was awkward. Yes, it felt strange. But every single time they came out the other side more alive than they'd felt in years. And if you're single, widowed, or living alone, this message is still for you. Reconnection can begin with yourself. Your body is still worthy of care. Your heart still has room for joy. Your skin still deserves to feel warmth, closeness, and love, whether from friendship, therapeutic touch, or future romance. The real question isn't, "Can I get it back?" It's, "Am I willing to try?" Over the years, I've worked with so many people who thought their time had passed. Some were dealing with grief, others with illness, many with fear, guilt, or shame. But the ones who gave themselves permission to take a small step, to try again, to risk feeling hopeful, they changed. Their energy shifted, their health improved, their joy returned. And most importantly, they began to feel like themselves again. You are not too old. You are not too far gone. Your story is not finished. In fact, your most meaningful chapter may still be waiting to be written. 6. Conclusion. This is not the end. It's the beginning. If you've made it this far, I want to say something important. Thank you, not just for watching or listening, but for being willing to sit with a topic that isn't always easy. Talking about aging sex connection, it can bring up regret, discomfort, even grief. But if there's one thing I've learned in over 3 decades of working with older adults, it's this: the desire to feel close, to feel alive, to feel seen. It never leaves us. It just gets buried under the weight of time, silence, and self-doubt. Today, we've talked about the real consequences of losing intimacy, how your brain can begin to age faster without stimulation, how your circulation and hormones shift, leaving your body weaker, how relationships suffer silently, and how self-worth can erode. And yes, how this loss can even affect your life expectancy. These aren't minor inconveniences. They're real, measurable, life-altering. But here's the common thread through all of them: they are not final. I've seen people reconnect after decades of distance. I've seen widows rediscover love at 78. I've seen men find their confidence again after thinking it was lost forever. I've seen women reclaim their beauty and remember that they are still desirable, still radiant, still deserving of tenderness. What did all those people have in common? They gave themselves permission to begin again. This isn't about turning back time. It's about reclaiming what is still yours right here, right now. Intimacy, joy, connection. These are not luxuries reserved for the young. In fact, I believe they're even more important as we age because they don't just nourish the body, they heal the soul. So wherever you are in your journey, in a loving marriage, a strained relationship, living solo, or simply somewhere in between, I hope this message reminded you of something essential. Your story is not over. There is still time for laughter. There is still time for healing. There is still time for closeness. And if something inside you is whispering, maybe I could try again, I hope you'll listen. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take one step. Maybe that step is a conversation. Maybe it's a moment of touch. Maybe it's just allowing yourself to hope again. Because you're not done. Not even close. And if no one has told you this lately, let me be the one to say it. You deserve to feel alive. You deserve to feel desired. You deserve to feel connected, not someday, not in memory, but now. Let this be the beginning of something new. Your next chapter may be the most beautiful one yet. If this message touched your heart, helped you reflect, or gave you a sense of hope, please give this video a like. It helps it reach others who need to hear it. Joel, subscribe to the channel and tap the bell so you won't miss future videos on aging well, living fully, and reconnecting deeply. Share this with someone you love, you never know, who's quietly struggling or waiting for a message like this. Ew. And in the comments, let me know, type 1 if this resonated. Share your story. If you feel called, your voice may be the one that inspires someone else to begin again. This is Dr. James, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Here's to connection. Here's to courage. Here's to you. See you next time.